Welcome into the Citrus TV studios for a web edition of Cuse Countdown. I'm Paul Mancano alongside Nicole Hansen and KJ Vaughn ahead of Syracuse and Duke Wednesday night at 7 inside the Carrier Dome. And guys, that means fans are already starting to stay outside of the dome for Bayheimburg. Pretty warm week to do that. Not bad.
They got really lucky. Last year was significantly colder for much longer of a period of time. I was seeing 2 weeks worth of people out there, so they got lucky.
Yeah. This weather, you couldn't ask for better weather in this time of year if you're wanting to camp out in Bayheimburg.
Yeah, and I'll bet a lot of Syracuse fans, as well as the Syracuse team, is happy that they're inside the Carrier Dome. They do a whole lot better when they're at home as opposed to when they're away. But let's take a look at these two teams and how they match up. Syracuse coming into this one at 16-12, Duke at 22-5, and you see the differences in the stats there. A little staggering when you get to points per game, especially. An opponent's points per game, Syracuse having a very down year defensively, as we've mentioned, just 70 points per game they're allowing. On the other side, Duke, they're hot right now. They've won 7 straight, shooting well from the field as well from beyond the three-point line. That's typically where Syracuse has an advantage, but not for this one. Let's take a look at the starting lineup, starting with Duke. We got Grayson Allen averaging 15 points per game. We all know what he brings to the table, but some of the other guys on that list may not have heard of. They're not quite the heralded stars that you would expect, but they bring a lot of firepower.
You see a lot of really dangerous numbers up there, especially even if you just look at the points per game. You have Luke Kennard with 20 points, Jason Tatum with 16 points. It's not just Grayson Allen, the name that you're hearing the most, that's really going to be dangerous for this team. There are a lot of big threats.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of those big threats, Jason Tatum, look at that stat line. I mean, not just the points per game that you mentioned, Nicole, also the rebounds. I mean, almost, just over 7 rebounds per game he's averaging. And then, obviously, he's shooting the ball well, and that's what leads to, averaging 16 points per game. So this is a very well-rounded starting 5 for Duke.
It's obviously going to be a tough test for Syracuse. All right, guys, let's get to the keys to the game if Syracuse wants to pull off the upset. Nicole, let's start with you.
My key to the game is not necessarily something, but someone. Tyler Lydon needs to play well. The last 3 of the last 5 games, he scored under 10 points. Well, he's been rebounding, and maybe that might make up for a little bit of the lack of scoring. Maybe a little bit, but Andrew White can't be the only person out there scoring. Every once in a while, you see someone else step up, but usually we're looking at White and Lydon as the 2 consistent scorers on that team, even if Lydon wasn't necessarily hitting 20 points a game like White was. But you need more than one person scoring. That's without a chance is this happening for Syracuse if they can't score well.
Yeah, Nicole, I definitely thought about that. That was a very big key for me, but I was like, is it the biggest key to the game, right? We want the main focal point. And after watching the Georgia Tech game, I'm convinced it is the back line of that zone. It's guys like White, Thompson, and then you have, Roberson comes off the bench. Obviously, Lydon is included in that group. And specifically, it's on the defensive end. You saw it if you watched the Georgia Tech game, Ben Lammers, I mean, just over the top, he's getting alley-oops, and he's getting kind of wherever he wants. I remember there was a great play on that alley-oop that Ben Lammers slammed home. Torian Thompson is not spatially aware that Lammers is lurking on the baseline, and you saw it against Louisville as well, just absolutely being eaten up. Emil Jefferson can do that to this Syracuse team if that back line can't really kind of understand who's around them, because it's a zone. You got to be aware of people that are coming in and out of your zone. So if they can do that, then I think they definitely have a great shot to win.
Yeah, the back line of that 2-3 zone, as well as Tyler Lydon, both extremely inconsistent this season. All right, guys, Wednesday night, Syracuse and Duke. Who wins, KJ? Who you got?
I did. I thought about picking Duke. I was like, this is a very hot Duke team. But I said Syracuse in the Carrier Dome. Give me Syracuse, 78-72. Now, a lot of people are probably thinking, well, Syracuse having the struggles that they have in the last couple games. But ultimately, this is a Syracuse team that I think is talented, and I think they want to make the NCAA tournament, and I think they all understand that this is a very vital game, because after this, you're going to Louisville, and then you only have one other game, Georgia Tech, coming to the Dome. And then when I started digging into Duke's record in that past 7, some close games in there. Now, very impressive. UNC win, Virginia win, but Clemson by 2, some very close games. So when I thought about Duke coming up here to the Dome, and what I think is going to be a hot shooting Syracuse team, because I don't think they're going to go cold like they did down at Georgia Tech, they can get it done. They can hit the big shot when they need to, picking them in a close one.
You mentioned the UNC game. Clearly you didn't watch the UNC game. If you watched that team, North Carolina is a very, very, very good team, and they showed them what they were made of during that game. Duke showed that they were capable of this, and that's why I'm taking Duke's 83-70. It was either, I agree that if you at least had the margin, if they're going to pull it out, they're going to be close, but I think that it's far too likely that all those guys you saw up there, Luke Kennard, Grayson Allen, Jason Tatum, are all just going to show the amount of points they can really score on that team, and they're going to outshine the Tyler Lydens, if I even dare bring him into the same conversation in scoring.
Okay.
The dome may be magical a little bit. You can look at it that way, but I don't think it's quite magical enough to get this game, although it is a must-win, like you said. So maybe, but I don't see it happening. I really don't.
All right, disagreements as to how this game is going to end, but I think we can all agree this game is huge for Syracuse. Just 3 regular season games remain before the ACC tournament. Got to win as many as possible. All right, for this edition of Cuse Countdown, I'm Paul Mancano, KJ Vaughn, Nicole Hansen. Enjoy the game, Syracuse.